Hello and welcome to my home. Today I'm going to talk to you about getting your fall vegetable container garden started. But before we go there, I want to let you know I have other types of videos on my channel. I have easy to prepare recipes, product reviews, meditation videos, and other videos on growing a variety of vegetables in containers. So let's go talk about your fall vegetable container garden. To find your first frost date, you can Google it by saying and typing in, I should say, into the computer your state and your city, and just type in what's the average first fall frost date. And it's just an average to give you an idea. Now that average date, your true frost date may be a little earlier or a little later, but it's a good guide for you. So what are you going to do with that information? That tells you how many days you have to get your fall garden off to a good start, because you want to be able to start harvesting before that first frost date. If you plant too late, your plants won't reach maturity and won't be, I want to say, of age enough to stand the colder temperatures. So that's the first thing. So let's say you want to start planting next week. Well, count from that date forward to your first frost date, and that'll tell you how many days you have to grow a variety of different fall vegetables. Once you know how many days you have until your first frost date, we'll give you an idea of which of the vegetables you can grow for the season. Now, for example, something like radishes, they can grow and mature, and you can harvest, depending on the variety, from 21 days, 35 days to 40 days. So radish is a good one if you're kind of short in time. And radishes, there's a variety of recipes for radishes. It's not just for salads. You can do soups, sautés, and all types of things with radishes. Now, some more types of vegetables that'll give you a shorter time frame to grow include things like spinach. Depending on the variety, can take from 48 to 60 days. You can also grow, I'm going to show you this one. This is called a kohlrabi, and it's a very delicious vegetable, and it can be harvested in about 60 days. And it's kind of a cross between turnips and cabbage. It's very delicious. You can also grow something like have turnips. You can get turnips in about 55, 60 days. Don't forget your lettuces. You have lettuces like Butter Crunch that goes in about 60 days, 65 days. You have your romaine that's about 60, 70 days, depending on the variety that you select. So you can get your lettuces going. It's really great. You can get cabbage going. It's about 75 days. Cabbage can be a little finicky to grow, but give it a shot. It's just like what you get in the grocery store, only better because it's fresher and more delicious, and you grew it. Spinach and collards are also something good to grow for the fall, and depending on the variety, like for example, this kale, it says it takes 70 to 95 days, but it's going to depend on the package that you select. If you have something like 95 to 100 days of growing time before your first fall frost date, you can go ahead and try something like Brussels sprouts. They're always really good. You have winter squash that could take somewhere from 85 to 100 days depending on your variety. Also, I mentioned broccoli and broccoli rabe. They're good to grow too. They grow shorter time frame. And also, don't forget your carrots. Now, carrots are easy to grow. You just have to grow certain varieties if you're going to grow them in your containers. And I have a separate video on growing carrots in containers, and it'll give you the names of some of those varieties. For example, one's called Little Fingers, and one's called, I think, the Parisian. So there's certain carrots that do not get as long, not the big long ones you see in the store, because your containers are not going to be that deep. So these are a lot of great things that you can grow. So what's the takeaway from all that? Know what your time frame is that you have to grow for your fall growing season. Pick the variety of vegetables that fit within that time frame. That's the takeaway. That's all the timing is. The other thing that you need to consider is make sure you have your containers in a spot where you're getting 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. Just because it's a cool weather vegetable doesn't mean it still doesn't need sunlight, so you still have to take that into consideration. Your containers, if you're new to containers, if you're using plastic or stone type containers, make sure they have drain holes in them. If you're using the cloth type, they're like smart pots or aero bags, you don't need to put drain holes in those because the way the bag is cloth, it allows drainage, so you don't have to worry about that. Also, make sure you're using potting mix. You're not going to use topsoil. You're not going to use soil from your yard because those types of soils are probably going to be too dense and it's going to compact in a container and your roots just aren't going to do well. Further, if you're going to grow root vegetables, I don't know if I mentioned turnips. Turnips is a good time to grow turnips and beets during this in the fall as well. And they need looser soil for the fertilizers. Yes, you're going to still need to fertilize your vegetables just like you do if you did grow a spring garden or a summer garden. You probably already have all-purpose fertilizer, but that's basically what I rely on, a nice all-purpose fertilizer. Now, sometimes people ask about a higher nitrogen fertilizer. You can get one where there's a higher rate of nitrogen in the fertilizer. I wouldn't go crazy and get something super high. So when you're trying to figure out, well, what does she mean by nitrogen level? Well, your fertilizers have 3 components or 3 numbers on the back or on the front or on the side of the package or the box. That first one is the nitrogen level. And so those 3 little numbers, NPK numbers, tells you about the ingredients basically that's in the package. An all-purpose fertilizer, in my opinion, the numbers are almost the same. They don't have to be exactly the same, but they're pretty close in number. If you want a higher nitrogen one, just make sure that first number is a little higher than the other 2 numbers. And that would be good for your kale and your collards and for your greens, your lettuces. Your bulbs, if you want the I guess I want to say the focus to be on the bulbs, like your turnip bulbs and your beet bulbs, you're going to want to have a more balanced fertilizer. If you go with a higher nitrogen level on beets and turnips and carrots, you might sacrifice the actual formation of that vegetable and get more leaf on the top than the actual bulb that you're looking for. Watering is basically the same in my opinion. The only difference is as the weather starts to cool, you won't have to water as much because it's summertime in your containers. There's going to be, evaporation of the water because of the hot sun and the hot temperature. You still may encounter some bugs in your fall garden, especially in the warmer part of the growing season. So be on the lookout for that. I have several videos about how to control your the pests in your yard. And lastly, just have fun. You can do it. It's not a big deal. I don't want to make it a big deal. Oh, this is fall gardening. It's basically the same recipe. You just have to make sure you're growing the right vegetables and starting them at the right time. Now, you don't have to grow from seed. What I've been talking about has been growing from seed. You could go to your local garden center and get some plants, and that'll help cut down on some of the time frame as well. It's just super simple. It's not rocket science. Just paying attention to a few simple things, and you're going to have a delicious fall garden. If you like that video, hit the thumbs up like button and consider subscribing to my channel and hit the notification bell so you know when I've uploaded a new video. That's it for now. Bye-bye.